Fredrick Sherman in Shiado Navajo Nation Environmental Protection Agency Waliao Aja Atra Shana Nishnat the Neba Washington Jata Inishija Tsaga Hotzanaja. IEC Nash Nashija the neck ehobe Wajihigi Shin Eya and lay the Nihimana has Zambik Dest in Behaz Ani. Adat o AD behas ani benda an sto be on sto behas ani nak askoda ahot o bendeil nashle lay an nilch in a rage bedet each do to na rage do il zeido o kot ego at o nda anish di nilch bedet each on nashikishin eya Air and Toxics Department had no bear with you. Aja at ego on nishkod. There we have the air quality program, the radon program, the pesticide program had no bear with you. Aja behas ani. They have their own different regulations and laws under those program office. Lachana on nishije ayati to. Lay Nahastan Bakat Honas Lenegido Nahastan B Gunatho Dahnaz Kadigido Dan Lenegi Asian Bedet Ego on Nesh Ado Eya Tho Nihilya Adas Ahagi in Lay Toit Lanegi Edo Ohot O Benda and Neshot Biki Edest Ingo Asian Eya Safe Drinking Water at Waliego E Ajasa Ahot Obez Ani Hadet yana right khoni khya das lanegishin big test in do adola adonakha ya at ehegishin bet khahna wile hegi bet hat enegi eben yeb has ani holon hat obe onnish ado nas zamba kha o tho nas lanegi do big test in god in lay so that ehge so den ado ado la al sani thalka da jadi da ehegi Asian to yaka da bagan do yi da bagan odo o yena khishin to hagi edi shin betsa hada da nil khwin zan washin to ba haya god sha IEC benash nashje edit il zebe on nashje Waste Regulatory Compliance Department nego dahin on nishot dahin netlegi at on nada an nish aquagit na nishil dahi khagi sa on nishige and lay chidabet ho ba ada as aji kita des in lay chidabet ho agi toshje lahole naz lahoe abakha chinaz digi ni thohagi ni hlesh betkhawle lago khadit oda toshje hegi bagan klar ko hanigo betsahat ingo shin ekwagi dobik dest ingo onish lachin na annashige ehlet so bedet ego na anish Navajo super fun hanigo bewitcha ya and lay kida na kite da hichoka da shin Aquaki let so chotas in dengi, Sawashing ado jopic eta whisky the door, Sagishin ea nch da betchane wheelene, Sej ado da hinshazi, Ado Sachi e tota betchane wheeleo, ne tohagi, Yahi dos arlegishin bits hat ingo hat do hot ope onish. Shadits ilze, bedet each shenanish not e. Lay nicht rando nicht da has ado il zegi ado il zegi de kiehegi an lay panna has ago hit de kiehegi do an lay hit de kiehege big na ho ko aja alto il zebedet I ope on shija aja shenanish not e Resource Conservation and Recovery Program she hat nigo be witcha Adoshin Wadina or Hajo Hojoni Hilchodesh al Echit onan Nashiki be on Nashtonal Nash. Shish has another Nanaide Kit Holongo, Tiza Ashish Hadit Zins and go ebe na out e. in lay na a hochain sabel na hot a la sha kwata tsaga hot zana the Navajo Nation Fairground ha nigo be wajihiki Asia ada nashnish don na etiket holno ada shadinal lay na a hochain sabel na hot a la big aya il dehegi sha where you pay your rodeo tickets, where it says Navajo Nation EPA offices Bakao beta as tanled ada she nashnish besh besh it hodil neho be na hot Shabesh be hanaege aya 928-871-7923. Ado besh ben sakese ben akago na ite kit holongo email ashadilko abiga. She email it's Fredrick Sherman at navajo-nsm.gov agent hodilna. Not so sanahaje hege aya edo Edililo Agents and Goya. I am at P.O. Box 339, Window Rock, Arizona 86515. So akot o ete hosin do akot o shanan nashnat I kadeya nshlenegi bene nikhil khodeshnet ad don neegi sheya nadal ke nasht ejet khoban shlon thodech ni bashchin do look eta shnalado kin lechi ni klazalana eta shiche akot o the nenshlan do okot o nashet nestam do ado da isenol agishin keholongo ajago do han shiche shnala shicho shil shithe azana tashin tanolong Adnihilchohon shahegi eya civil enforcement hatnigo be wajihegi eya khit open na an be on nashto ben na anash do khit o eya nihibe has ani hadat ehegi gonna go in detail about the Navajo Nation Solid Waste Act and the Navajo Nation Solid Waste Regulations. I'm sure you're very well aware of the difference between an act and a regulation. The Navajo Nation Solid Waste Act hatnenegi tsilzebedet o behas anigi biyado nashnishto be nashnishigi tsizenadin the tsilzedo da no baka akone akot o nahesto the tsilze atzago yohil kadigi do danoya baka o nahesto god in the Navajo Nation Solid Waste Act section 204 it says all open dumping shall be prohibited. All open dumping shall be prohibited because isn't that thing that's ilze zao yo hil kadiki dota no hot obaka a digishin behat behat all it at this ilze bedet behas ani holonegi in section 204 hot obaka na hesto na konna ege section 201 gonna eneniki it shall be unlawful for any person to dispose of a solid waste in a manner that will harm the environment, endanger the public safety and welfare, or create a public nuisance. Jo akwa ege baka ege Dits ilzegi nahastan hadet ehegi and leonal gloshi do tunazlan do nan sepaka halon ye hadet ehegi do be hadet liagi dits ilze bededosh do hot ego do bich nahot eo do leshiki shimpets hat ego beniya di behas ani elia Adona akuna abaka dispose of any solid waste in a place other than a facility which is in compliance with these regulations. Akuna adnata nenike deni hits ilze twiza abana has angot agent hitiye dolesh and lay hot zago cheshk goya tsako goya ajet anaskit benetja yanda baka. So a quack shin a quat ego behas ani hat e. Koja regulations hat nenegi Navajo Nation solid waste regulations. E don't hodlongot okuna e nahes zogi inspections and enforcement baka e isha shik est hit o e nashnashti behas ani be o nashigi as a compliance officer with Navajo Nation EPA. What is my job? What is my duty to enforce this? Okuna tko e baka nahesto. Adona okuna e standards of solid waste landfill facilities. Eya dit ilze hetekie Chait o eya beon nashto chait o eya hetekie heki hadet ego dit ilze bebehas ani gibik ehojel idole hatnigo baka. Adona akune a requirements for solid waste facilities. A aja a chait o like you might behas ani that's a dahil so big eho nash baka o dahil so benanl nashto to aha ayot ashe that's ilzegi big Fleisch big inalt hito left that's to baka to Tkohogi that's big test in late ilze hiteki beya that one lenigi jodo do adola adam chongi ni tropet khawle hegi shin betsa hat hatna adona kunna a financial responsibility for owners and operators of a solid waste landfill facilities ein le persona raja and late ilze hiteki beso benach and enegi do na nashan chado be on nashiki a personan deho beta det I gishin big test in sto a kot o behas ani a itan behatelia sto ado de and lay transfer stations dabet nenegi in lay nichits ilze hijde ye heche Chait o ya bellen dahas ado lelto chait o aja on neshigi hadet edo leliki elto a itan behas ani bi na hesto Na kona a composting hat nenegi a shinti flats ilze that the zeo njona kota ak agent lesion da week le hot le adole bo ota otangi na dach in yan el trais e dat ehegi na da be dat ado shin na yeza bakhaki cheche yam bakhaki dat eheki eshi betsado njona go ze o haja opa ahaya go big is des io njona go da ak ehlejiki instot lich go do eben nach njona go national do lel eshi decomposting hat no be wajiki it's the regulations are intended for industrial level composting, collection and transportation of solid waste. Dates ilzeke de giehegi chidet sope giehegi ein de bebehas ani holong sto niche Navajo Nation solid waste regulations kunna atkobi na hesto chait o yats ilze jo yehto lelbaka. In there, most likely they're going to be required to have a waste manifest. The hauling of the trash must be covered. The driver must have qualifications and must be certified. A collection and transportation of solid waste. It's a portion of the regulations. Last but not least, contained within the Navajo Nation solid waste regulation is a portion about recycling. And lay nichits ilzela Tlachago bechon nada hotloniki do beso big nadlie ya anji ki Asian aji bedet ego in the event that Navajo Nation somewhere there's an industrial sized recycling facility in the event if it should occur. We already have the regulations in place for that. Right now, I'm going to go in a little more detail in the civil case and how we do civil cases. What we do here at Navajo EPA with the Resource Conservation and Recovery Program in addressing illegal dumpers is we provide them a civil case, and in the civil case, we work with responsible parties. Et inigi behozeno, chishi ilze ya yenigi behozeno, et inigi belna anish, kebelnaz ti opel onish. Die ichit ego whenal kago nle ade whenal ka o wehats ilze ya jiyela wheto nido hakiti nigo ya di first notice of violation hat nenegi na dol sos NOV hat nigo be which we call them an NOV, and it's a notice of violation. Okonna di not sos nail sosegi okonna bakana na hest zoge eya and later nik in that tag on its ilze yene yin la shin de dort nicht ado tis a ha aki yen yenegi shin is dort nicht isja dort nicht ado akwa aki ya genegi shin is dort dort kisko enich dort nicht. There'll be a photo of the dump site ado na akonna eya Nes na ginger het or the bands and a kiss and the dot nil. You'll have 10 days to you'll have 10 days from the from the date that the notice was given to you to give a response. Ne dogo het or bands and a kiss and the dot nil. Nes na ginger ben na has on the dot nil. Ade should na hotel that's a besh behane be edo dai besh and sakes benakado edo dai that's a shutli adin nalko et hadith zishit het o eban since sinakes this notice of violation hat nigo nanil so again do shist ida that's a shadin edo dai and lay shithes and a belhaje la ya edo dai shachana should say de ye shin that and that's a should ding edo dai ya adina so that's a should hodilna il zege ida na hella do ida akwa eki hasht anish la that's a should ding Edo dai that's nes na jimpelako idol kar adon hit na wings ne. The queen zago a na ki has ango ne nal sos notice of violation hat nenegi na dol sos. Second notice of violation olya. A nes na jinja ban sanana kesko be na hot e. That's enough deal to that's do in lago a thatchago not at ile ya nehe anhe salaugi badet criminal enforcement criminal enforcement department aja badet ahdi edo a aja go bananesh and it becomes a criminal case. The ajanat ija peso naligaheki betenilje to anahui ahe bich that's in sto to awalia jito and that egot the quaeki do nich not na hojit nego a kotim. So there's penalties assessed at possible jail time and going before a judge. There's $500 penalty assessed for every day per violation. Eshtladanez natin peso and najdot lel aha ayot alto do ateke go hasht ehochitlego. Ado there's possible jail time of 180 days alto. So akot o civil cases be onish ado okot o criminal case le. Dig at hanege ya Chait o di de nebeln deil neshigishin do haje ets il zeiche de giehegi do chait o il zei a oho el zenegishin bahanne do lech. Where to properly dispose of household trash. And lay trat naznela batahorana chapter houses. Aje Llahobeln da has angod il zeidi horandogi household trash hat no be wujihigi aja beln da has do aja big llahob ajik il ze aja hiteki llaho ya bata illa ashin bit the napel be da hosen hajent il ze hiteki hegi Akwanda aja naishdel kito we have a resource listing of where you can dump and properly dispose of your trash. So akwat di tranas na labata horanots ilze hiteke be na has aniki ya Navajo Nation Solid Waste Management Program hatneniki shi aja yendalnish along with the chapters. So Navajo Nation Solid Waste Management Program works individually with the chapters to address open-top bin or transfer stations for the chapter communities. Navajo Nation Solid Waste Management Program does community infrastructure. They work one-on-one with the community. So okot o ajabibin danish do okot o ya khanas na legi bataho gana je yelndal na sho il zeiche de geheje igi belnda has etayosam. Nihye koje the Neba Washington Navajo Nation EPA hat nigo benefit do jeje ya do ajigi bendel nishta. Nihye ya et inigi band do it sosto et inigi et the ke asht ehodot legit ya nihye na nishnat e. We only do enforcement of the Navajo Nation Solid Waste Act and regulations. We don't do community infrastructure development. The nebekeya baka nihyen the neb benahas so biguna and late il zeiche de gehe jingi behas ani big ehojel ego hit the ge jingi yanihe at then. We have no permitted landfill on the Navajo Nation. All of Navajo Nation generated trash is transported off of Navajo Nation. Navajo Nation Solid Waste Management Program, they're the ones that are supposed to develop regional landfills across Navajo Nation. So if you have questions about why there's no permitted landfills on Navajo Nation, Navajo EPA is not tasked with that. It's Navajo Nation Solid Waste Management Program. So ishjahi ekwat na kona in hannet do lege edits ilze oho elzen hatnenegi reduce hatnenegi the volume of waste that we generate. In late ilzegi oho in tas enel na aki edenos and hatnigo benda antinegi holongot in lay hat ilze Nehui leho hajo welbeho zeno bena antinegi holon at latnichit ilzegi beso bata ilon at ya anahiji geho eshi belagana at recycling walia and lay best besh kakido chede beskato thodel choshe bezista adat ehegi ya anahakeho beso ki pa elenegi la hach kondo nil got recycling Llachigi e ya di da kihetan lenegi plastics hatnenegi lla they're recyclable go e she e ya llachigo becho nada huitle and lechet e gie de shin ya anda ye gie go de de go llachigo de kie and nada they're made into other plastic products. Adona kun eya and leni hinalt sauce it says in it that ehiki edo ya anahaki hot if do she nalt sauce and nadal ne recycle paper hatneniki eya kot ego bane krigo the neni tlini kot oni beozen do a egi nashetenes tragi big ehwan shi do lech needs no sheya nichts ilze enelt egi enel na agi in tasegi a o queenie sendo lech do e egi ben antienegi do a del in lagot with the chapters, with the school, and with the community. Sha nichts ilze ya da ag elegen na huit lehot Ishin composting negi and lay adola ian ba agi nada altas ian dan say dan lenegi ba agi ba kaki da naho no masi ba kaki na hadleni it oshi naho a bit had geshiki kwajiko njonogo hasht echel igon jonogo Delzi o llej joni ki ben nachink is de do lecheki na huitle. Edit is altko hat il ze ekot o na raje kot behuzen o do a oho ejeseno. Kwajit go sheni hits il ze do wahazol ne hit de da do lech. De ita bewesh ne recycling hat nenegi nichil ishla. Na kone iki eya di beninat il ze a isi nichit de etish nenegi benina is eltse hat nenegi eya Johnny hits il ze do deltzeta ya. Nichit il ze da hui lehegi do hajo da deltzeta. And label lagana atayi lagi delkin plastics ado styrofoam do jeta gazi do rubber da adat ehegia do ayota delzeta do ebenina oni hitte ani do a ebenina ya recycle ata no benantin and leik eda the nani cleany yil da hade and lay hajine do washte all tahate shini hits ilze lahot and ita shini hits ilze eyan jonogo na hastanj and na huitle don jonogo tzitnde and later ak etoj iando ado apane ta atat ani hiran hatet hashto et hin seledo sahti da adat ehegishi atsen betsado odaliande don jonagona hastanj altho dadeltsedo da ak elegen na huitlelende aro washte hoteshi do eya belagana ni thaselin do eya nle nadlihe das leon nadlihe kestedo nadlihe beltas desigishin la do hajo dadeltzko ntahi kie tasidlin ado na ajaha yati zanata atat shi ha anja ot hitekie go hot opa olta benina hot opa olta he she anle de she equate in there yeah we used to dispose of our solid waste in that fashion because back in those days our solid waste was biodegradable. However, we haven't changed our habits yet. Our method of trash disposal has remained the same, but the contents of our trash has changed over the time. So we need to catch up and teach our people that yes, it was an approved form of waste disposal when 110% of our solid waste was indeed biodegradable. But over time, the identity of our trash has changed. Do khait o ya hajo khete heki chote no ha no penna anthin god dini het ilzai petes la baat don khayat heki to o yupet khasalin. Our solid waste has become hazardous as well. Not only is it no longer biodegradable, but it has become hazardous. Plastics and latex or you don't khayat but khakot polychlorine benzene tawaliego tapatha and lay is the kanko flesh but khatchet no wheele edo dai nchedo but khatchet no wheele ebeninat ilze ado tato seta no stop bears ani bear had that odd Na kona hana eke di electronics hatni go be which and lay adole chote enegin chinal kitedo nchhalne do patient sakes do besh behane at the care not ahagi mobile device nani do aha at ishi ban that ihobachon da holonegi anything with a plug in lay at sergeant kitiki do bahas ada ya anahaki chin ya ado shinya ta opeya ya ta opego sacho bachon nada hotlon so okot the electronic waste recycling hatnigo be nahot ahgot eti the nebekeya benas zogi bi gona Lay Arizona Department of Environmental Quality hatnigo be which we do a joint project where we do electronic waste recycling. Kis ani trachedo belnahot aho aja baka ane kakot over at Ochen Oraibi beyeja kakaits movie the hasnita that we have an event. And if there should be any Navajos that drive over there to participate in the event on Navajo, we do outreach to them about proper trash disposal. Na kone bahanege open burning of trash. Tis a natin the behas ani go baka ege eya do adleida. Benina do adlenege edits izage the shito. Flesh but khane wheele heke eya don khaya at heke but khane wheele ado nalch iki do but khane wheele di ni hetho ina at hatnigo the naya ya dal khila e shi aja ban hui stol algo at edi het ilzage the shetgo il flesh heke shi tho but khane wheele Tohegi bet chaho salin go eya ni tohegi stol chon go our safe drinking water will be compromised as a result of burning trash from the chemicals that are now in the ash. So ebeniya ahatna di haho kied gots ilze akuya ahechil cargo. Edo tzanatin the dota. Benina neneke eya at hopenadet Jo haho kied go kuyat ilze hejil cargo eya big enal tiho tohogi but nahil et or let the chemicals from the open trash pit. So ebeniyeto dahanam. And lay behas ani big ehojil ego be on nashijit ilze agent hiteki heja aja landfills hatnenegi be wachiheki yeah they do have a proper protocol in place for proper burial of trash, and that's a lining underneath the trash pile. Then they have monitoring around the landfill to monitor the water, the groundwater, to ensure that the groundwater is not contaminated. So kot obik dest go be onish at the landfill. But and lay ha the hahoiti scared go kuya til ze ichil kat go etota. Ya Danish Navajo Nation solid waste regulations okunna etota baka. So okut o na anashti. Let me talk a little bit about the Navajo worldview. Dita nanit lenekito hit o ya hat ish epenina ahat nila. Nihemana has zan di nigo nihena anthin lado the nanit ligo beta nit al. Akwati ninde nihikeje go eyat ilze do hajoba ahwiliada. Nihemana has zan Dina Sandopa Aholia, respect and care for Mother Earth Hatnenegi, Aquaegi, Nihena Antienegi, Ayokin Tladi Itza, Deeds Ilzeben Nacha Ehozeno, Equat, judging by the amount of illegal dumping that's occurring. Hojonla Ben Need Hinde, and later don he or the Inkta. Ancient Aquaegi Hate or Akonid. Na konahana aka leveraging with chapter communities. So how do we resolve these solid waste issues? Hashait o ben del nashko hasht eda hodil nilto hashait o be o nashko hajo ne it's ado ota hodol alto get show nani hoto nilto hashait o then nichedo na epeln deil nesho yik ede the dot hing Asian quadogi ohot ego bahodon. Leveraging with chapter communities, innovative solutions to solving solid waste issues at the chapter community level. A proactive chapter does the following thing. And leit nas na lepeln das age dit il zait as a IEC ilze at zago achil karigit is a IEC adon achilya at etado Chait o ya aqua egi hasht eda hodil nil jashin bahanem. Provide the chapter community with solid waste disposal. That would be one of the ways of doing lay tratnas nalabataho ganajits ilze hit the kiehegi hit the kiehegi belhaz anko ohushdo lil. Na kona lay beta na astrado lehtit ilze ato aatsaje yahi giehe dota bakago beta na astrao esdo lil. Making no dumping signage available and posted. Adona kone allocate undesignated funds for community dump cleanups. Ainlay the Neba Washington do beso Jehitet ahagi and late hatnas and lebahitet ahagi. Eila beja at our theo deeds ilse arts goyata hil cottage ben don neshko at that or hilto hot obel ben dal nesto lesh or hot obaka as a suggestion. Adona kone deny chapter services to illegal dumpers. And later jit inigi aishana behozano and later net ilze aatzajan yahinehi do ado und innen do nidot ato big ato okwa egi hasht enant let and nigo ya di quado chapter services iki do dan the do need because in effect you're breaking a Navajo Nation law. Adona Kone developed roadless land management plans to block access to cleaned up dump sites. Di etwats ilze etkonahe stlado etwa njone hojon onahwaliago okwa egi. Bekesk ehkunne ya di aja etinegi but Legil Kitgota, Eji Lago, Bena Hort Itolel. Ado eya di kwa ekeya has aneki, Ade equa edo. Do chitten da do lech do agent ea do chitte be et hin da do lech hat ni go ye etes es go yes zin go hot o keya aqua egi acho in do lech ki do be na hot e, but that's if and only if the illegal dump site has been cleaned up. Adona kone ea develop an inventory of chapter community illegal dump sites. The within the chapter boundaries, chapters are encouraged to develop an inventory. And lay ilze atzajan yatahi kinigits is a topic at the don neto beja at the dorni haki at the hat eniki eben nacha ehozengo halane la do halane la nihe holola do hate o eben hitch and ahot naniki shin ben nacha bebe hozen. And then apply for solid waste grants, collaboration, and partnerships. E beso bakana at zoegi, in late ilze bedet ego aja stop benacha ahot eot the chapter community. So these are a listing or suggestions of how a proactive chapter addresses solid waste issues. Know the difference in responsibility to the Navajo public between Navajo Nation EPA and the Navajo Nation Solid Waste Management Program. So it's important that the public knows the difference between what EPA does to address solid waste issues and what the Solid Waste Management Program does to address solid waste issues before you proceed to go forth in asking for assistance, for cleaned up, and for leveraging funds. The EPA certified chapter hatnenegi LGSA that's what they promulgate solid waste ordinance for the chapter community. Anige bears ani with at the chapter community level do an ordinance, generate revenue from solid waste recycling. You know, now that you're certified, you're empowered, you can venture into establishing jobs within or create jobs and revenue within the chapter, and a recycling facility would be a good one. And then engage the chapter community in composting organic waste for community farming. So that's another way of reducing the trash, is by engaging the public in composting, and then working with the farming community to generate augment their fields with the organics that have decomposed. What about individual families? Let's talk about individual families. How can individual families address solid waste issues within their customary use area? Partnering with individual families in their chapter communities. Illegal dumpers, the nebeln deil nishko, la ayobel beta hozenot, Chait o nichin deil nishto, chait o eya nichikaen dal wo nichiln dal nish. They, in a sense, become our eyes, ears, and nose at the community level in addressing solid waste issues. They've learned how to collect evidence, take photos, document date, time. They've also identified vehicle make, models, and license plate. And by collecting evidence like that, it helps us to develop good civil cases where we address directly to the responsible parties to take proper actions. And that's probably one of the most effective ways, because Here at Navajo EPA with the Resource Conservation Recoveries Office, we are short-staffed. We only have three staff that cover the entire Navajo Nation in New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and the satellite communities of Alamo and Canoncito. So by becoming more involved with our program and by learning how to collect evidence within your customary use area, you in a sense are a multiplier effect in making sure that illegal dumping is no longer a problem and mitigating future problems with illegal dumping. So a lot of the individual families know what we look for and how to attain evidence, collect evidence, and they make a good case for a simple open and closed case on our part. So okot ego the nepashindeishnish, the Nepa Washington Resource Conservation and Recovery Program hatnigo benachito jeje dits ilze hatninegi bedet I on nishigi. Kodo, thank you for your time, and I'll leave you with these words. Respect and care for Mother Earth, and hajo natok as esto nigo and that's where we would need your expertise and assistance in the future. We need to address and put some other components into the Navajo Nation regulation to address junkyard in the junk vehicles at homes, tire shops, tire shop storage of tires, and then how to address people with home site leases as far as them being illegal dumpers. Thank you.